All right, here we are, OneNGlen back in action. Today I have a do-it-yourself job for you. So, last week I went to go fire up my pressure washer, which is this bad boy right here. A Honda overhead cam GCV 160. It's got a Honda motor on it. It's a Craftsman. I fired up. I'm not going to show you. I'm not going to start it up and then show you what is going on, but I'm just going to talk through it. I tried to fire it up. It runs. The motor runs. I purged the line. I hooked all my hose up, my line for the pressure washer handle, all that good stuff. I pull the trigger. Nothing happens. When the motor is off, I can purge the line. Water runs through the pump. Everything is good to go. When the motor is on and it's getting ready to put pressure through it, it does not work. So I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, I found some tutorials, and now I'm gonna walk you through the process of how I am gonna fix this issue. What I did notice that a lot of people have to do is replace these little check valves, which allows water to go through the system. It's these little things right here. Let me just put this down. These are the check valves. You got, what, 6 of them? So I will be replacing this. This seems to be the most difficult part. These things, I guess, do not want to come out of the little valve body that they sit in. So those check valves I'll be replacing. I bought these off Amazon. One thing that I could not figure out is what kind of pump that this specific pressure washer has. And you can find, if you have this issue, you can find what kind you have, or at least the volume of water that goes out on the pump itself. When I pull the pump off, I will show you where to find that. So that's what I did. I found a couple key numbers that a lot of people were talking about on Amazon reviews. And I said, oh, let me go find out if I have that. And sure enough, I did, that kind. So even though you have a Craftsman, you have a Honda motor, you have whatever, sometimes that does not differentiate what parts you need for your actual pump. I also have, I'm gonna place a couple of these. These are kind of just some maintenance things, you know, stuff that I saw that other people were changing. So I thought, well, let me go ahead and do this. I also have some bushings here for the pump as well. Let me open this bag. Got 3 of these things. All of this, all 3 of these parts I bought off Amazon. I also have some Lucas Oil product assembly lube, some semi-synthetic assembly lube, which I figure now that I'm a homeowner and I'll start doing more little projects and working on my own stuff, maybe a little more in this big garage here, I could use that for other jobs as well, so I picked that up. All of my parts were about $45 on Amazon. And let's get into pulling the pump off of this pressure washer. So I'm gonna walk through what I'm gonna do, then I'm gonna do it, and then I'm just gonna show you what it's gonna be like afterwards. If you need help unscrewing and taking out bolts, well then you should take this thing somewhere else. So I'm just gonna talk about what has to be done. I'm gonna do it, and then I'm gonna show you what it is afterwards. You do not need to see me unscrewing bolts. So to take off, the motor and the pump are bolted on the same holes. So there's nothing else special. So you take off 1 bolt under here, hold that nut, 1 bolt here, and it should be 1 more. Let's see, I'll be able to see it from the 2 on the back side. And 1 on this front side. It's over here. Here you go. 1 more over here under here. So 3 bolts in total, which hold the pump and the motor together secure. I'm gonna take those out. I'll separate the pump and I'll show you what we have going on. All right, be right back. All right, so we pulled the pump off here. I'll show you the pump. This is the pump. All right. So this comes off the bottom of my pressure washer. Got a little grease up there. I'll clean it off with some carb cleaner here in a little bit. but you have 3 check valves under here. Then you're going to take these 2 bolts out right here, and you're going to have 3 more check valves underneath here. And I'll show you. You got 3 bolts here. 1, 2, 3. You're going to take those 3 bolts out there. And that's a total of 6 check valves that we're going to be replacing today. To find what number you have, what kind of pump you have, is right here on this bar. Let me see if I can get it kind of in focus. So it's an Anovi Reverbery, the 2.2 G24. I bought these from the exact same company. Again, these are online from Amazon, from the exact same company. There's spare parts for it, and they're the actual valves were like 16 bucks. Anyways, all came out to about 42 bucks. But to find what model you have and what size and all of the parts you need is right here. Amazon sells everything, and that is where you get it. So let me turn this thing over. I'm gonna take off these 3 bolts. I'm gonna show you what the check valves inside look like, and then I will pull them off, and I will tell you about any sort of difficulties I had while taking those check valves out. Because some people say the reason why it's not working initially anyways is because the valves are stuck, in turn makes them hard to get out. So let me pull these 3 off. I'll pull the valves out, and I will tell you if I had any issues or if I didn't have any issues. All right, be right back. All right, so I'll say the first thing, those 3 little bolts that you have to take off to get the first check valve off of. Those things, they use thread locker or something because they're tight as hell. So I just gave it a little bump with my impact, and then I pulled them the rest of the way off. So let me just show you here what we have going on. The valves sit in here like this. I'm gonna come in here with a little pair of needle nose. Let's see if I can grab this and kind of see if I can't get it to pull out. And they are kind of tight. There we go. All right, so just the top side came out and the bottom, but there's still the ring in the bottom of there, and that is what people are having problem with. So it looks like I'm gonna have that issue as well. Let me pull this other one out. It's just the top cap and the spring, and then this one as well. And the same thing there. So it looks like I'm gonna have the same issue here as everybody else that I saw. So this is how they come. I got this top piece out, the spring on the inside, but I'm missing this bottom side. The bottom side is still stuck in there. So here's the pieces that came out. Got some water in there. I'm gonna go ahead and get these out, and then I will, when I get them out and fight through them, I will come back and tell you how I got them out. All right, little valve still in there. All right, so getting those pins out, or the bottom of those valves out, weren't too bad. What I did do to make it a little easier was go ahead and separate where the valves are. So you got 3 more valves underneath there. But where those valves are, this whole valve plate and the body, the pump body itself, or whatever this is called. Anyways, you'll see I got to change these here in a little bit. I have to change these gaskets out on the black gaskets and get those the valves out of here as well. But what I did use was I have this little pick right here with a angled edge. I got this. Let me see, where's those crappy valves at? Here they are. So the valve kind of sits in the bottom of that housing like this. And what I did was get underneath here, and I just pulled up real tight. They're pretty solid in there. They're stuck pretty good. So it would have been a pain, I guess, if I didn't have this pick. You could use some kind of a dental pick or something like that to get them out. But that's what I used to get them out, and it worked pretty good. While we're in here talking about this, OneNGlen is working with a makeshift workbench. I just bought 6 Adirondack chairs like this. And I don't have my workbench set up, which is gonna be over here. But I do have the garage set up for the most part, but I don't have a workbench yet. I'm going to build the workbench probably next weekend. And I'm using these 5 empty boxes as my little workstation for today's project. So, all right, so that's how you get those valves out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spray a little carb cleaner in there. I'm going to try and clean that housing out. I'm going to then put some assembly lube on the O-rings here. I'm going to slide those into place for those 3. Let me clean this thing up and I'll get right back to you, and then I'll film me putting one of the valves in, which probably shouldn't be too exciting, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'll put those in. Let me get this thing cleaned up. All right, so I got this thing a little bit cleaned up here. I'm going to put a little assembly lube on 3 of these check valves, and I'm going to put them into place here. I have it kind of resting up against the actual pump body just to make it a little easier for me to do this. But let's see how I can set this sucker up for my YouTubers. How's this? Might be a little dark, but you'll see what we got going on. So put just a little bit of, you don't need a ton on here, just a little bit of lube on there. Wipe it around with your glove so it's nice and easy. Wipe your fingers off. And then we're going to go ahead and drop it down in here. And I'm going to use the end of one of these bolt heads. I'm going to push it down to make sure it's seated correctly. So you want to, should kind of feel it snap into place because it's got a little, let me put this camera down. I'll tell you how hard I got to push it in there. So not too bad. So you literally just push it down. I'm going to use, like I said, a bolt. Just push it down until you feel it not go anymore. It's down the bottom. It has an O-ring that it kind of sits into. Let me put these other 2 in here, and I'll put the caps on the top, and then I'll just talk through what I just did. All right, so I got these back on here. I also did use a little of the assembly lube. I put it on the washer because I did not buy, or the O-rings. I did not buy new O-rings, so I wanted to just keep them kind of moist there. So I went ahead and put those on. Those are assembled, looking good. While I have this off, let me go ahead and pull these little covers. As you see, I always have a bunch of rags here. I like to keep rags here. Let me go in from this bottom side here. Okay, and you see it has a little crease on this side. That whole thing goes downwards. So those are with the old. Let me just pick these ones out. Pick this one out. Same thing. Let me just wipe this one down just a little bit. Get some of this kind of just grime off there. And I'm going to drop the same ones in here. And it goes downwards. Okay. Now this is pretty much done. That's all I had with that. So, all right. So what I'm gonna do now is I have these. These are actually for like O-ring or like piston rings to spread the piston ring. I'm gonna use these to just kind of get these little washers out, or these seals, not washers. These seals. So those are out. These, Trashola, I'm replacing those as well. All right, let me get in here and take these 3 check valves out, and I'll be right back with you. Let you know if I have any issues. All right, so I got the 3 check valves out from the valve body. So these ones that sit under these 3 caps, they're pretty shallow actually. You can get to them with needle nose and pull the top part of the housing off there and then use a dental pick or whatever to get the bottom side of that housing off. These 3, the valve, like the body housing part, is pretty deep actually. Let me show you kind of a side view of how far this thing goes in. It's pretty deep. So my needle nose actually would not get in there and clamp onto the top of the first part of the check valve. So I actually did the whole thing with this little dental pick that I have, this little makeshift one. But I would say if you're going to do this job, you get a set of dental picks that has a curve on there, or make one yourself, whatever you're going to do, because they come out way easier if you do it like that. It was super easy. All right, let me put a little brake cleaner in here, kind of get some of this grime off of there. I will seat my check valves. I'll put my new little washers here back in top side. The opening, the ring part goes down. So that goes down. But let me clean this off. I'll put those check valves in there. That's just pushing them in and getting them seated. And then we'll get this thing buttoned up and we'll be testing it out here pretty shortly. All right, so we got this thing all buttoned up. Here it is. I got my seals in there. Got my check valves in the bottom. Everything gets a little bit of assembly grease on it. These bolt patterns are not a full triangle. Right here, 1, 2, and 3. So this thing only goes on one way. You can turn this part upside down, look over it like this, try and figure out how you want to do it, where all the holes lines up. But it does line up like, not like that. Like this, not like that. Like this, boom. Like this. So this thing only lines up one way. Look down here, press this thing together. Literally it only lines up one way. The full threaded bolts go back in here. Take your Allen wrench, screw these bad boys in. Let me put this thing together. Another thing to, as I just put this on loosely real quick, another thing to remember is your pump itself has it's a keyed shaft, which means it has this little notch out. So when it goes back under the motor, this thing only goes in one way. So you can't put this any other way, so just keep an eye out for it. So I got a little grease coming out here or something. Anyways, it only goes on one way, so be cognizant of that, all right? You know, spin this thing into place, put your pipes where they need to go, and yeah, that's it. So let me button this thing back up. I'm gonna bolt it back to the power washer, and I'm gonna hook it up, and we are gonna try this sucker together, see if it works or if it does not work. Be right back, YouTubers. All right, here we go. The sucker's all together. Full disclosure, I have not tested if it worked or not. I did start the pressure washer. I got it warmed up for about 3 or 4 minutes. I hooked the line up. I put water to it. I primed the line so there's no air in the system. Maria is going to, aka Lover Buns, is going to take over filming, and we are going to fire it up and see if we have pressure at the same time.
Okay, got it. Let's go.
This is
Talking Too Much 101.
What are the odds?
Oh, what?
Is it gonna work or not work?
Yeah, it's gonna work. Let's go. Be glad you guys can't hear him. He's talking again.
This is not a good sign. Turn it off. So as you saw, the pressure washer did not start. Well, it didn't work actually. So the motor is like really kind of chugging along, like there's a lot of like kind of just back pressure. I think it's because the actual pump is no good. So it wasn't the valves, the check valves, or any of those other things that I replaced. I do think the actual pump finally went bad on it. The pressure washer is about 6 years old. So I think the pump just actually went bad. And I'm sweaty because I just mowed and cut and edged and weed whacked my whole yard. Let me show you what that looks like, by the way. So, a little irritated that I did this whole tutorial of changing parts when in fact that was not the issue. Here's the Wood household. Boom, freshly cut, looking good. 82nd flag up there, blowing in the breeze. What you know about that, Feeny? Boom, looking fresh. Nice cut grass. Halo up there, chilling. We got our big pumpkins out. Anyways, there's a new pad. But we clearly those parts that I installed was not the issue, and the pump was probably just taking a shit anyways, so that's why it wasn't working. But once I think the pump like died out, then it was super hard to turn the motor over at all. And when I pulled the pump off of there again for the second time and just turned the motor over, the motor was good. The motor just turned right over like no big deal. So obviously something's going on with the pump. So I ordered another pump. The pump will be here in about a week. Well, it says that on Amazon, but it might be here sooner. And when I get the new pump in, I will do another tutorial of how to put a brand new pump on your pressure washer, and then we'll fire it up and give it another test run. So if you need to replace your check valves or your seals or anything else that I replaced and messed with, watch this tutorial. If you replace it and it still isn't the problem, watch my upcoming video for the actual pump install. All right, YouTubers, OneNGlen out. See ya.